Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CSA Security Update. I am your host, John DeMaria. We've been continuing on with our AI theme over the last couple months. Today's no different. Today, we're going to talk a little about software development. As we know, AI and machine learning are really no longer futuristic concepts. They are being integrated into our daily applications at a breakneck speed, from customer service, chatbots, complex data analysis tools. AI is the new engine of innovation. But for the application security engineers tasked with protecting these systems, this represents a systemic shift. Their traditional playbook, built around finding vulnerabilities and predictable code, is being challenged by systems that are problematic, opaque, and can behave in unexpected ways. In this episode, we're going to explore how security teams are adapting to protect AI-powered applications from new threat models like prompt injection and data poisoning to securing the AI supply chain and monitoring models in production. So it's going to just dive right in. We have two great guests today that couldn't be better guests to discuss this topic. First, we have Jim Rotan. He's vice president and head of the ISBN application security at SAP. Jim brings 2 decades of comprehensive experience in architecture development and security, having previously led architecture teams at Capital One and Symantec, with a focus on cloud architecture and mitigation initiatives. We have Manish Kumar Yadav. He's a principal security architect at SAP. Information security professional with 10 years of experience, currently part of the SAP product security team. Manish has experience in areas such as penetration testing, security coding, vulnerability management, threat hunting, server hardening, log analysis through SIEM tools. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so as usual, we have quite a diverse audience. So I'd like to start off, having you just talk a little bit more about yourselves, and maybe something interesting about yourselves as well and your experiences. And then we'll get right into the questions. So Jim, I guess we'll start with you.
Sure. John, one update on my role is I'm vice president, head of product security for supply chain management. Haven't updated my LinkedIn yet, so that's on me. But other than that, I lead the product security team for supply chain management, which has several products underneath of it. My teams consist of AppSec, incident response, security engineering, MLSecOps, as well as architecture. Been going along this journey now for a couple of years with AI and how I see it's transforming the industry in general, just from securing AI to using it for our daily use.
Yep. So thanks, John, for having us. And about me, I think it's been 12 years, and I think I started this whole security journey from the college. Started being a big the bug hunter, finding those bugs into the hacker one through the hacker one and the Bugzilla, submitting those reports. So it's a more of like born and brought up in security. I started with the log analysis, threat hunting, during the time when we were looking at the different logs coming from the different devices, and that's got me interested because when we are working as a pen tester, it gets crazy. And now doing the same thing over the year over the cloud security, and now with the transitioning to the AI ML, working under Jim Rotan's leadership, helping and securing the SAP in a way, and also helping the community, working with the CSA team. I also working with the CSA community, the Cloud Security Alliance community on the AI ML thing. Recently contributed to the CSA wonderful certifications for the TAISE, which is really good certifications, and then also working with the other community, work with the OWASP and then NIST RML. So this is all about me.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's dive right in. I'll just throw some questions out there to y'all, and you decide who's best to answer that. But, I think of AI, we think AI is just not that normal product anymore. It's a AI agent. I think it's the word, agent makes a big difference because they're learning tools. They continue to learn. In some cases, they can do their own thing if it's allowed to do that. And so that's really changing how applications are built, I think, from an applications sector perspective. What makes AI-powered applications fundamentally different than from, say, your traditional software?
Sure, I'll jump in here and take that one, John. In general, you go from deterministic to probabilistic, right? Like the same input doesn't always guarantee the same output anymore. Which breaks like the traditional, security assumptions. Now the code isn't necessarily Java, Go, whatever, but now it's the model, the training data, the prompts. And then all of these things can then introduce risk.
So what
Anything you want to add to that, Manish?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I think to the point you mentioned, right, the deterministic versus the probabilistic one, and this is also comes to the point of the user input, because it was when it was a pretty much defined workflow, we were expecting the users, I mean the customer, to navigate in a certain way. The application flow was defined, and I think John, you mentioned the AI agent thing. It's something like something which cannot determine it. Like, okay, these are the steps which is going to do that, because the tools have also have access to the tools, the web search, all sort of different way to find those answers. So of course it's a bit different approach in terms of the kind of application we are dealing, the deterministic versus the probabilistic way. So the things become a bit tricky in terms of securing those.
Yeah, to tie it up, I think it's not necessarily we're no longer securing what the system does or the application does, but what it might do.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Getting back to risk assessment, I picked every session we've done. We get into things, and risk assessment always pops up as that foundation that we've all used, and it's been built on throughout our most of our lives, and in security always starts with risk assessment. Many security teams are used to analyzing deterministic code. What challenges arise when the system you're trying to secure, starts to behave problematically? And I think Mahesh, you had alluded to this when we talked about agents. Maybe you can start by giving us some insight to that.
So I think when it started with the plain LLM, when we were starting using the conversational messages, when we ask some questions to the bot and get those response coming for the LLMs, as it evolves over the time, having the agent way where the LLM will be able to have access to the internal database, as well as having access to the different tool across the company. So it might also be started with the ragging, where we were grounding the traditional LLM, because traditional LLMs were like trained on a certain set of data. So when we were trying to bring those tools inside the corporate or inside the enterprise, we have to feed the data. So that can be like, okay, I'm bringing my own policy, like a travel policy. Take an example for travel policy, and I would like the bot to be like respond based on what is my internal travel policies. Take an example for this one. Now that was like a whole retrieval and augmentation generation part was there. Now the things comes up with the customer. If we talk about the SAP, we do get like, okay, now it's a ERP suite. We want to get something on top of that. How we can get our internal database access to that, and then also get those responses saying that. So this tooling and the whole communication between the LLM and the tools, it's keep on evolving, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna take a multiple iteration to complete a certain task. So that's how it is evolving, and now we are coming to the point where the user asking the questions, not only the typing those questions, but even the voice intelligent assistant is coming up, where the people can say, I just want to book a flight from Frankfurt to Boston, and so on that. And that's where the voice assistant pick up those questions into the natural language, getting to the LLMs, and then it has to query your travel booking partner the flights, looking at the base date, looking at the calendar of the person when the person is traveling. So maybe Outlook or whatever the team is using. So that's the whole ecosystem of the agentic ecosystem coming up, where there are tools, the LLMs, the memory also. It need to understand what was the initial questions. So the things which really important is like how quickly we want to tie those conversation to a particular context. So when the LLM started, it started with a window of like 200 words, 256 or 500 or something like that. I'm just putting a generic word, and now it's coming all the way till going to the millions. So it remember your previous conversations. Okay, what was the last third question the user has asked? So this is how it been evolving over the LLM journey.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. So fantastic. So let's shift a little bit, go into some threat modeling and design issues that I'm trying to address here. So I think we've seen some new attack surfaces as we get into AI. And so discussions like threat modeling, how does AI change the traditional threat modeling process? And what are some of those new attack surfaces that security teams should need to really consider?
On the attack surfaces, I would say, prompts, RAG, the training data pipeline, third-party models. I think it moves more to more a behavioral model in terms of threat model. The trust boundaries, in essence, kind of blur, I would say, where you have user model and then external tools. You're not just protecting, an application. You're protecting actually the interactions, with the LLM. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you already mentioned that, Jim. So the attack surface, of course, is gonna increase because it always says users are evil actually. So you don't trust the user because we have seen situations where somebody was having some chatbot for shopping company, and the people were able to write a Python code for that. So you don't want you don't want a chatbot to be like saying talking about the competitors, and this is something a really big challenge because you should never trust the user, and we have seen the issues with that. And those tokens are really expensive. If you look at all the commercial model, each and every tokens, like if you just compare with the question you ask with the LLMs, it comes with some limitations as well, and you have to pay for that. Maybe if not the person, then even the company is paying for that. So in those scenarios, of course, you need to look at the other aspects because the stack surface has been widened. And I think, as Jim mentioned, the model poisoning. Of course, the people, the user will gonna try all the things, and this is something the challenge the AppSec teams have seen over the time. From the SQL injections, we have just plain text box where we expect the people to put a username and password, and they were putting the SQL query. So of course it becomes a little challenging. And from the leadership point of view, Jim can talk about the processes built across the teams, which we can use across the team can also use it across, and also the empowering the development teams to look into those aspects of AI and ML security stuff like prompt injection and all.
And I think Stripe still applies. It's just the trust boundaries, let's say, shift. And
well, I tell you, I'm not obviously not the expert, but I hear a lot about things like prompt injection, model poisoning, model evasion. I mean, which of these threats are you seeing most of often in practice, or any other issues beyond that? What are you seeing out there from that perspective?
We can go by this week with supply chain risk, like LLM. That came up. You have trivia. You're starting to see more of these from the supply chain side in terms of what, as me as lead of product security, that's famous kind of line, what keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
You also have, prompt injection as well, which is kind of like, go back to, showing my age here, like SQL injection. So I don't know, Manish, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, the Alight LLM is a recent example, right? We have seen the supply chain are the biggest one. And I think those are always an easy target in terms of if you're able to compromise one of those publicly maintained repo. Because these, if you look at the traditional attack in the last couple of years, we have seen the people were able to compromise those open repo. I mean, the repos, I mean, the libraries what people use. And some of those are having like a millions of download per week. So if the people can able to get into those, they can, in a one shot, they can able to affect the millions of users across the world. And
Blast radius is
yeah,
exponential.
exactly.
Yeah, well, you've actually fell right into, the whole supply chain topic, which is what I'm interested in as well. We talk about developing our supply chain, AI systems. In many cases, it really depends heavily on X data sets and libraries. What is your thoughts on, how organizations should think about securing this AI, this so-called AI supply chain? It's something we haven't really talked about very much. Maybe you can shed some light on that.
I would say start off with, inventory, everything. What models, data sets, all this thing, where's being used? Also, where is this coming from? Has it been validated? Go through the normal kind of security processes and gates before it's been really, what testing have you done adversarial testing? And it to me, it's kind of, in a way, you're looking at it from the traditional like SEA kind of, say, mindset or discipline. And also, having an S bomb. I know we'll probably talk about AI bombs here in a little bit. But I think you need to essentially control your model supply chain. And then, because if you don't do that, then, you're not really controlling your risk.
It gets down to, again, we're back to this risk assessment thing. And I think you also mentioned, from a security perspective, we're getting back to basics. And I always try to, put that out there, because having been around for 40 years myself, we've always come full circle around to, the basics that we've all learned and grown up with in security, including, risk assessment, risk management, supply chain security. We talked about that. I mean, no matter what you're doing, it's the same thing. But how might we improve transparency and risk management in the supply chain? I hear terms like AI bill of materials, things like that. How might, what type of concept? I mean, how do we improve that transparency and risk management in the supply chain?
You want to take AI bomb, Manish?
Yeah. Yep. I'm all in. I mean, it also comes to the point, the traditional SBOM things is also matters, because whatever goes inside the application, it has to be like, aware of that. And this is something we have seen we have seen a traditional problems coming up, like Log4j time, when we saw the libraries were there. And I think each and every organization across the globe was affected with kind of things which we have seen. So AI bomb is pretty much a transfer from the S bomb. And same thing coming with the model registry, or maybe looking at the MCPs. So don't bring any externally hosted XYZ MCP servers, because, and I think Jim always mentioned that if you're in doubt, don't do it. So if you doubt that, so if you feel that, this is something not secure, don't do it. I mean, it always have like, and I think we have a pretty good ecosystem of teams, the process which we have across, where there is the people who are security team, who are expert in a area, who are ready to help the teams. And this discussion, start the discussion from the design discussion part itself. So the moment you are building up something in the applications, not only with SBOM or AI bomb, but also the design discussion, like threats, look at the process across the threats, be a partner with the teams. You also empowering the development teams to ask those questions, like, I'm bringing this MCP servers or A2A or something like that. What should the design looks like? Because bringing those teams close to your design discussion, it's not also gonna help the development team to be a faster and deliver those products, but also it's less expensive to fix those bugs. So imagine you're building something, or you build the entire product and then says, okay, look like there are concern with the AI bomb, or there are some regulatory requirement, because for SAP we are operating across the globe. So we also have some regulatory requirement coming from the EU or coming from the US federal government and also we have to make sure that we are looking at those things and partner with the development team, I mean the security team and the development team, and that should be like work closer to get this issue resolved. So always, whenever in doubt, don't do it. Yeah.
There you go. No truer words are ever spoken. But once you have done it, and there's always that gray area. Once you've deployed your AI system, I know continuous monitoring. We have the CAR initiative here at CSA. This continuous monitoring is becoming almost a need rather than a nice to have. Once these AI systems are deployed, what kind of monitoring and controls do you feel organizations should have in place?
I would say several that come to mind. Behavior monitoring, looking at anomalies, policy violations. Also, there still needs to be, in my opinion, a human in the loop for high risk decisions. And then, maybe more importantly, those switches to disable, a model or a feature quickly. I mean, we've been talking about agents, but if you think of in terms of, hey, for a financial institution or whatever that's dealing with, let's say your bank account, and you have a rogue agent out there, and it can cause a lot of damage very quickly at scale. So trying to have, those appropriate kill switches in place and humans in the loop to make sure that those risks are mitigated. We're still going back to, let's say, table stakes. We're trying to mitigate risk.
Yeah, I've heard the term. I'm hearing the term more and more. AI firewalls, and of course I know what we've all grown up knowing what firewalls are, but AI firewalls, I don't know if that's much different. What are they, and how do they help protect applications and productions?
Yeah. So I think Manish touched the point. If you cannot see it, you cannot defend it. So logging is always an important aspect. And when we log those events, looking at the prompt, looking at the and this is something is really important for the security team, because having a breach or having a security incident is, of course, you always try to defend it, but there is place where how quickly the team can detect it and take actions to remediate those. It's always important, and that's where the AI firewall comes into the picture. So in the starting, I mentioned when we bring those commercial models from Anthropic or OpenAI or some other places. So we know that each and every model has been trained on some set of data. It also has come up the data coming over the internet. So when we bring those models to the enterprise applications, we need to have certain guardrails in a place, because we don't expect them to be talking bad about the competitor. So we don't want our SAP Joule assistant bot or any other application which we are building talking about really bad about the competitors or any other person over the internet. So that's where the protections comes up. And I think for us, we are using some of the in-house model we have. So this is like a bit tricky situation. So we are protecting against those attacks using our own homegrown models. We're also looking at some of the commercial one we have implemented across our environment. So the moment it also look at prompt injections, it also look at the PI, PCI data exfiltration. So it would also look at when we are passing if the user is passing some sensitive information, because we don't expect every users to be tech savvy or aware of PI, what is the PCI, maybe posting about the credit card data. And we don't want that to be logged into our applications or goes to the models, because those are really sensitive. And I'm talking about in general the challenges what we see across the SAP, because we run across the millions of customers actually. So in those kind of scenarios, but we feel that having these basic guardrails which help us not only against the injection attack, but also the PI, PCI data exfiltration, the PHI, all the sensitive information, the credit card number, the SSN number, and all. And it works in a both ways. So not only the input and output as well, because we don't want the user to be exfiltrate the data from the model which has been trained on, which has not been trained on, but you don't want that to be like trying to mimic that and get this exfiltration work done in a certain way. So that's how we have the guardrails in a place when we are defining and designing the applications, and each of those are like designed in a way that it works in a certain manners and work in a way that the particular use case is delivered to the customer in a safe and secure manner.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
think of
So
it in terms of um, you know, a WASP, but like for natural language, good at blocking, known, injection patterns, kind of what Manish was alluding to, like PII, sensitive data, but it's also like everything else. It kind of goes back to fundamentals with offense and depth. It's one first line of defense for it. But if you have an attacker that is, really motivated, they'll find bypasses. Don't want to be doom and gloom here, but that's
Well, I know you were talking about the technical issues of different people and different positions, and I always like to get into the cultural gaps that we have, because when it comes to AI, I know just my personal experience here at CSA and how much we're starting to use AI, and there's this cultural shift because you have so many different levels of understanding and technical expertise. And some people are old school, and quite frankly, and they do things differently. So when you get into application sector engineers and data scientists, or ever, for instance, and other areas in our organizations, we often we approach problems differently. So give us some tips on some practical steps that might help bridge that cultural and technological gap that we have in many of our organizations.
yeah. I think the two roles, how I look at them are, data scientist is, looking at, let's say, the model performance, like optimizing that, doing experimentations. Whereas AppSec engineer or product security is like looking for adversarial behavior. They're two different domains, but they do intersect. And I also look at it in the sense we're talking about it a bit earlier, is it still goes back to kind of, how we functioned before, me with my AppSec team and product teams. It is trying to be solution based. You want to enable teams instead of slowing them down. So in this case, we want to enable the data scientists. And how do you go about doing that? Well, let's try upskilling, kind of giving them a sense of data scientists learn security, but also AppSec engineers like learns ML. Kind of goes back to like security champions in a sense, where you're taking, a data scientist and a team and, upskilling him with security and having him or her be like the first line of defense.
That's good. So yeah, I think the cultural thing is important. It's just like business continuity, which is um, very important to me personally. It's it's about everybody uses data, everybody uses systems, so many different levels of understanding, and we have to have systems in place that are really helping people protect the systems, or at least in some cases just an awareness of AI and the risks and the things people should be aware of. So organizations need to make sure they're building policies, AI usage policies for organizations, so people understand. Because I don't know about you all, but for me, I'm really into AI. I love it. Uh, I consider myself, you know, uh, seasoned veteran in many areas of security, but even then, there's still that unknown, and it's important that we continue to educate people and weave this into our culture as an entire organization and not just an IT or security thing. I'd like to move into what I call our crystal ball round, and this is where I give you the opportunity, give you both an opportunity to speak, to chime in on from your personal experience as much as anything else. That's why I call it crystal ball. If you had to give security leaders one piece of advice about preparing for AI-driven applications, what should they start doing today?
I would say from just my learning so far is to get involved as early as possible with all the AI use cases that the product teams are coming up with. So therefore, you're not on the back end of it. You can have into it to design decisions to make sure it boils down to the term shift left. I think that would be the biggest piece of advice that I could give, a security leader right now. And then also we within our group have biweekly calls between security, data privacy, legal, product teams, PMO to discuss, upcoming use cases, just to have that clear communication across all the different domains. So we're all on the same page. So those are two bits. Yeah, 2 for 1.
Yeah. So I think one thing which I have seen, which always helpful for the security team, and I think understanding the concept is really important, because when we go for the design discussion or trying to trying to help the team in the taking the security decisions, it's really important because we know that this field is evolving at a fast pace, where in the 3 or 4 years we have seen started with the LLM calls, then it all comes with the RAG, then it's coming with the agentic capability and the tooling, the multi-agent. This feel like, when you try to, learn something this week, probably the next week there's something new will be coming up. I always say is, try to be close to the technology, not by just reading those, but also trying to do some of the hands-on things, because that helps a lot. Because if we say somebody don't use those particular MCPs, but when we literally try to understand those MCP architectures, looking at those, how those teams are literally calling those MCP things, or maybe the conversation happening between the client, maybe they're using the cloud code, or maybe using the VS code, or anything like a client or something like that, a cursor or something like that. See how the communication happens between those MCP servers and all, because there are n number of way. Every time there is somebody popping up some GitHub repos over the internet, and team will go and grab those repos and try to implement it. So try to understand the flows, because that's where it's really important. And if possible, because now there was a time when there was a big gap between the application team, the team who are developing the application, and the security team, because security team was like not everybody is like a hands-on coding experience, but now the gap has narrowed down. Like even for the security team, or for anybody who's like a 20 years in industry who has never wrote a code in the last 10 years, maybe some 10 years ago. Now they can also go and write the code into the cloud code and say, I'm looking for a particular website, give me something, and that will be done in 2 hours, 3 hours. So maybe the team can also try to take help from those, understand how the workflow looks like. And this field is evolving really fast. So be a partner with the team and help them to understand, as well as try to understand the technology in a much better way. And it also comes down to the point, because people not in this team, but I have seen the people usually see the security team as a blocker. So don't be the blocker, because this is really of innovative pace. The team is going in a really fast way. So be the partner with the teams. I'm not saying block everything or allow everything, but when you understand the technology, you'll be in a better position to take those decisions. And I think Jim knows that. I mean, from the leadership point of view, you always get those things. I want to try out something new in the market. How hard it is to get those, blocking those things and allowing those things. So it's a crazy thing. How human in the loop, right?
Yeah. I guess leadership. That's a great point, though. I mean, leadership is so important when it comes to the whole AI thing, because it's we tend to want everyone to use it. We want everyone to have fun with it and be creative. But with that comes threats and risks. Yeah, we have to. Leadership has, as you say, put those guardrails around and say, yeah, have fun, but you have fun with it. Like, you want your kids to have fun, but don't run out into the street, right? And this is very, very similar to that. So absolutely. So what, I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions that'll come up here afterwards. What's the best way to get a hold of y'all? Is LinkedIn usually the best way? I kind of allude to that because that seems to be the safest way to do things without filling your inbox with a bunch of emails. Does that work for y'all?
Yeah, that works.
No, I think I'm also involved with the community work, so people can also post the question to the CSA working groups.
Yeah.
So you can also interact there, have any questions, have the discussion. Now I think I saw the working on the MCP draft, so maybe we can sync up there as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. If everyone's CSA working groups are free to join, so yeah, jump right in and you get a lot of expert advice. We have just a whole host of experts and security people and scientists and everything in our working groups. And so the research is free. The working groups are free. Just jump right in, get involved. That's what it's all about. So really appreciate that. I'm sure there'll probably be an opportunity here to expand on this subject at some point down the road as things evolve. So appreciate you all taking time out to your busy week to do this for us. Yeah, if anybody has any issues, if you have any problems getting a hold of Jim or Mahesh, you could always contact us at cloudsecurityalliance.org, and we will get you in touch with them. So really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show. Stay in touch, and yeah, we'll be reaching out later as these things evolve. So thank you all very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, John, for having us.
Bye-bye.